Tell locker. For most students at Northwood High, it was just a metal box, a place to dump heavy textbooks, half-eaten lunches, and crumpled-up notes you'd rather forget. But for me, Jamie, locker 317 was different. It was alive, or at least it felt that way. It had started subtly. A few weeks into the new semester, a soft scratching sound when the hallway was dead silent, a faint hum, almost like a sigh, that I'd dismiss as the old building settling. My friends, Chloe and Ben, told me I was imagining things. It's just the pipes, Jamie, Chloe would say, rolling her eyes. Or you've finally cracked from all those late-night study sessions. Maybe she was right, but the feeling that I was being watched, listened to, by my own locker, it never went away. It became our little secret. Mine and locker 317's. Today, though, something was different. The whispers were louder. The final bell had just shrieked, sending a flood of students into the hallway. The usual chaos, erupted shouting, laughter, the slamming of metal doors. Amidst it, all I could hear it, a distinct, rhythmic tapping coming from inside my locker. Tap. 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 It was impossible. How could I hear that over the noise of 100 teenagers stampeding for the exits? I clutched the straps of my backpack, my heart starting to pound against my ribs. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my overactive imagination playing tricks on me again. But the tapping grew more insistent, more urgent. It was like a secret code, a message meant only for me. I had to know what it was. I waited, pretending to rummage through my backpack for a book I didn't need. Slowly, the hallway emptied out. The roar of voices faded into a distant murmur. Soon, it was just me, the janitor's cart rattling at the far end of the hall, and the sound. The tapping had stopped, replaced by something else. A whisper. It was faint, like the rustle of dry leaves, but it was unmistakably a voice. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the cold, gray door of locker 317. My hand trembled as I rested my ear against the metal. The cold seeped into my skin, but I barely noticed. I held my breath, straining to hear. And then, clear as day, the whisper came again. Don't forget me. My blood ran cold. I stumbled back, my backpack sliding off my shoulder and hitting the floor with a heavy thud. Don't forget me. The voice was soft, almost pleading. It wasn't menacing, but it was deeply, profoundly sad. Who was it? What did it mean? My mind raced through a dozen frantic possibilities. Was it a prank? Had someone hidden a speaker in my locker? Chloe and Ben loved a good joke, but this felt different. This felt real. There was a sorrow in that voice that you couldn't fake. My hand hovered over the combination lock. 24, 16, 38. The numbers were second nature, but my fingers felt clumsy and slow. With a final, hesitant twist, I heard the familiar click as the lock disengaged. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the handle. What was I going to find inside? I took one last look down the empty hallway. The janitor was gone. I was completely alone. It was now or never. With a surge of adrenaline, I yanked the locker door open. It swung wide with a loud creak that echoed in the silence. And inside, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. My chemistry textbook was there, leaning against my worn-out sneakers. A half-empty bag of chips sat on the top shelf. Everything was exactly as I had left it that morning. A wave of relief, mixed with a strange disappointment, was said, over me. So it was just my imagination after all. I had finally lost it. Chloe was right. I let out a shaky laugh, feeling foolish. I was about to slam the door shut and just go home, to forget this whole bizarre day. But then, something caught my eye. It was small. Tucked into the spine of my chemistry book, almost completely hidden, was a tiny, folded piece of paper. It wasn't mine. I always used brightly colored sticky notes, never plain white paper like this. My heart started hammering again. This was it. This had to be connected to the voice. With trembling fingers, I carefully pulled the note out. It was old, the edges yellowed and soft, as if it had been folded and unfolded 100 times. I held my breath as I slowly opened it. Inside, written in faint, elegant cursive, were just 2 words. My name, Jamie. Nothing else, just my name, written in a hand I'd never seen before. How? Who could have put this here? And why? This wasn't a prank. This was something else entirely. Something older. I sank to the floor, leaning against the cold row of lockers, the note clutched in my hand. I stared at my name, the graceful loops of the J, and the sharp finish of the E. Who wrote this, and what did they want me to remember? Don't forget me. The words echoed in my mind. Forget who? I tried to think back. Had I known someone who used to have this locker? The school reassigned them every year. I racked my brain, trying to recall old classmates, forgotten friends, anyone who might have left this strange, ghostly message, but nothing came to mind. The name on the paper was my own, yet it felt like it belonged to a stranger. It was as if the locker itself was trying to tell me something, a story trapped within its metal walls, a memory that refused to fade. Over the next few days, I became obsessed. The whispers stopped, but the mystery only deepened. I spent my lunch breaks in the school library, digging through old yearbooks from decades past. I scanned page after page of black and white photos, searching for a face that felt familiar, a name that might spark a connection. I looked for another Jamie. Maybe there was a student with my name who attended Northwood High long ago. The librarian, Mrs. Gable, watched me with curiosity. Researching a school project, Jamie? She asked one afternoon. He just nodded, unable to explain that I was hunting a ghost in the locker. After days of searching, I found something. In the 1978 yearbook, buried in a club photo for the school's long-defunct literary magazine. I saw it. A girl with bright, hopeful eyes and a shy smile. Her name was printed below, Jamie Allen. Jamie Allen. The name resonated with me, a faint bell ringing in the back of my mind. I read the blurb about the literary magazine. It mentioned she was a talented poet, a rising star whose words were full of emotion and depth. But as I flipped through the rest of the yearbook, her name didn't appear anywhere else. Not in the class photos, not in the sports teams, not even in the index. It was like she had vanished halfway through the school year. I felt a chill run down my spine. The next day, I went back to the library with a new mission. I searched for old local newspapers from the spring of 1978. My hands shook as I scrolled through the headlines flashing by. And then I found it. An article, small and tucked away on a back page. Local teen still missing. The photo was grainy, but it was her, Jamie Allen. She had disappeared one afternoon on her way home from school. She was never found. It all clicked into place. The whispers, the sadness, and the voice. The note with my name on it. Locker 317 must have been her locker. She wasn't just a ghost. She was a lost soul. A story left unfinished. She didn't want to be forgotten. She wanted someone to know she had been there. That afternoon, I went back to my locker. The hallway was quiet, just as it had been before. I opened the door slowly. It didn't feel scary anymore. It felt sad. I took out a piece of paper and a pen, and on it, I wrote a short poem about a girl with bright eyes, a forgotten voice, and a story that deserved to be heard. I folded it carefully and tucked it into the spine of my chemistry book, right where I had found her note. And then, I whispered back to the silence. I remember you, Jamie. A soft, cool breeze seemed to pass through the hallway, and for the first time, locker 317 felt completely silent. At peace. Her story was finally heard. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. Have you ever felt like you're not alone, even when you are? That prickling sensation on the back of your neck, the sudden urge to look over your shoulder. For me, a diligent college student, that feeling became an inescapable reality one late Tuesday evening. The campus library, usually a hive of activity, was eerily quiet. Only the soft hum of the fluorescent lights and the rhythmic tap of her own pen filled the silence as she crammed for her midterm exams. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. Yawning, Mia decided it was time to call it a night. She packed her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and pushed open the heavy library doors. The hallway stretched out before her, a long, empty corridor, bathed in a stark, sterile light. It was a walk she'd made hundreds of times, but tonight, something felt different. The air was heavy, and the silence seemed to press in on her from all sides. She started walking, her footsteps echoing unnaturally loud in the deserted space. 1 step, 2 steps. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, a flicker of movement on the wall to her right. A shadow, but it wasn't her own. Her shadow was cast behind her by the overhead lights, a faint, elongated shape. This one was different. It was darker, sharper, and it moved alongside her. A chill snaked its way down her spine. She quickened her pace, her heart starting to hammer against her ribs. The shadow matched her speed, its form unnervingly human-like. It was a perfect silhouette, gliding smoothly along the painted brick wall, mimicking her every stride. She stopped dead in her tracks. The shadow stopped too, a motionless figure frozen just in her peripheral vision. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. The only answer was the echo of her own word, bouncing back at her. Down the empty hall, she took a deep breath, trying to rationalize. It had to be a trick of the light, a reflection from a window she hadn't noticed. It had to be. Slowly, she started walking again, and there it was, moving in perfect sync with her. The panic she'd been holding back began to bubble up. This was impossible. There was nothing there to cast a shadow. The hallway was a straight line, with no intersecting corridors, no windows, no objects. Just her, the lights, and this thing. Gathering every ounce of her courage, she decided to confront it. She spun around, whipping her head to the right to face the wall head-on. There was nothing, just the smooth, cream-colored paint. Her own shadow now stretched out on the floor in front of her. But the other one was gone. She let out a shaky breath, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. It was all in her head. Stress, lack of sleep, that had to be it. Feeling a bit foolish, she turned to continue on her way. And then it happened. The lights in the hallway flickered once, twice, and then went out completely, plunging her into absolute darkness. A scream caught in her throat. She fumbled for her phone, her hand shaking so badly she could barely grip it. The silence was now absolute, deafening. A moment later, the lights flickered back on, buzzing erratically, and her blood ran cold. The shadow was back, but this time it wasn't on the wall beside her. It was on the wall directly in front of her, at the far end of the hallway. It was no longer mimicking her. It was standing perfectly still, a tall, slender silhouette. As she stared frozen in terror, the shadow slowly raised an arm, as if waving. That was it. Mia didn't wait for another flicker of the lights. She turned and ran. She didn't look back, didn't dare to. She sprinted down the hallway, her backpack bouncing wildly, her own terrified gasps filling the air. She burst through the exit doors and out into the cool night air, not stopping until she was safely in the bright lights of the campus parking lot. She never stayed late at the library again. But sometimes, even now, when she's walking alone at night, she gets that familiar, chilling feeling, and she can't help but glance at the walls beside her, half expecting to see a dark figure keeping pace, a silent companion in the shadows. What was it? A ghost? A trick of a tired mind? Or something else entirely? Some things are better left unknown. What do you think it was? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Thanks for watching. Alex scanned the classroom, a familiar hum of pre-lesson chatter filling the air. Pencils tapped, papers rustled, and a low murmur of gossip drifted from the back row. Everything was normal. Almost Alex's gaze swept over the desks one more time. Maria was doodling in her notebook. Jake was half asleep, with his head on his desk, and Chloe was desperately trying to finish last night's math homework. Everyone was here. Everyone except Sam. That was weird. Sam was never late. In fact, Sam was usually the first one in the room, setting up his books in a neat, precise stack. A small smile ready for anyone who met his eye. Alex had just been talking to him yesterday after school, right by the lockers. They'd been laughing about Mr. Harrison's terrible jokes in history class. Sam had promised to bring his new graphic novel to show Alex today. Alex frowned, a small knot of unease tightening in their stomach. Maybe he was just sick. But wouldn't he have sent a text? They were supposed to work on their science project together this afternoon. A quick glance at their phone showed no new messages. No running late, no down with the flu. Nothing. Just silence. The bell shrieked, cutting through the noise. Mrs. Davis strode to the front of the room, her sensible shoes clicking on the linoleum floor. She clapped her hands together, a signal for silence that everyone instantly obeyed. "All right, settle down, everyone. Let's get our journals out. Today's prompt is on the board." But Alex couldn't focus on the prompt. Their eyes kept darting to the empty desk in the third row. It looked so stark, so unnervingly vacant. It wasn't just empty. It was clean. Too clean. There were no stray eraser shavings, no forgotten pens, no faint pencil marks on its surface. It was as if no one had ever sat there at all. This can't be right, Alex thought. The unease was growing into a cold dread. They had to ask. It was a simple question. Where's Sam? Alex's hand shot up, a little shakier than intended. Mrs. Davis paused mid-sentence, her marker hovering over the whiteboard. "Yes, Alex. Do you have a question about the prompt?" "No, Mrs. Davis," Alex said, their voice sounding small in the quiet room. "I was just wondering, where's Sam today?" A strange stillness fell over the classroom. Mrs. Davis's friendly smile faltered, replaced by a look of genuine confusion. She tilted her head, her brow furrowed. "Sam," she repeated, the name sounding foreign on her lips. "I'm sorry. Who is Sam?" A nervous laugh escaped Alex's lips. "Sam," Alex repeated, pointing to the empty chair. "He sits right there. Sam Miller. We're science partners." Mrs. Davis's eyes followed Alex's finger, but her expression didn't change. It remained blank. She turned her gaze to the rest of the class. "Does anyone know a Sam?" Silence. 30 pairs of eyes stared back at Alex, a mix of confusion and pity on their faces. Maria shook her head slowly. Jake, now fully awake, just shrugged. No one knew who Alex was talking about. It was as if Alex had just asked about a ghost. "Alex, maybe you're thinking of a student from another class," Mrs. Davis suggested gently, her tone now tinged with concern. "There are 28 students in this class. There's no one named Sam." She even walked over to her desk and picked up the official class roster, running her finger down the list of names. "See? No Sam Miller." The classroom walls seemed to pulse, closing in on Alex. The air grew thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. This wasn't a prank. These was real. The bewildered faces of their classmates, the patient concern in their teacher's voice. They all genuinely had no idea who Sam was. "No," Alex whispered, shaking their head. "No, that's not possible. He was just here yesterday. We talked. By the lockers. He has curly brown hair and glasses. He always wears that green hoodie." Alex's voice grew more desperate with each detail, pleading with someone, anyone, to remember, to validate that they weren't going crazy. But every memory, every shared joke, every conversation with Sam now felt like a scene from a movie only Alex had seen. The world had seemingly conspired to erase him, and Alex was the only one left with the script. After class, Alex rushed to the lockers, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against their ribs. Sam's locker was 237. Alex knew it as well as their own. They'd leaned against it 1,000 times. But when Alex reached the spot, their blood ran cold. The locker was there, but the number on it was 238. Locker 237 didn't exist. The sequence jumped from 236 straight to 238. It was a solid, unbroken wall of metal where a locker and a person should have been. Panic started to set in. Alex pulled out their phone, scrolling frantically through their contacts. The name should be right there, between Sally and Sarah, but it wasn't. Alex searched their text history, their call logs. Nothing. It was as if every digital trace of Sam had been wiped clean, just like the memories of everyone else. But the memories in Alex's head were so vivid, so real. The time Sam helped Alex study for that impossible algebra test. The day they both got detention for laughing too loud in the library. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. These weren't just fleeting thoughts. They were cornerstones of Alex's life for the past year. How could they be gone? How could *** be gone? Alex spent the rest of the day in a daze, a ghost in their own life. They walked the halls, half expecting to see Sam turn a corner. They sat in the cafeteria, staring at the spot where Sam always sat, now occupied by a group of strangers. Every familiar place was now alien, tainted by an absence no one else could feel. Was Alex losing their mind? Was this some elaborate, cruel hallucination? Or was something else going on? Something far more terrifying. The line between reality and imagination had blurred, and Alex was trapped in the fog. Everyone they knew, everything they trusted, now told them that their best friend had never existed. But Alex knew, deep in their gut, they knew Sam was real. He had to be. And if he was, where did he go? And why was Alex the only one who remembered him? The questions spiraled, each one darker than the last. Alex realized this was no longer about a missing friend. This was about their own sanity. If Sam was real, then the world was broken. If Sam wasn't real, then Alex was. Either way, Alex was alone, completely and utterly alone in a reality that no longer made sense. The final bell rang, releasing Alex into the afternoon sun. But there was no warmth, no relief. Just a chilling resolve. Alex had to find the truth. They had to prove Sam existed, not just for Sam, but for themselves. They had to find a crack in this new, wrong reality. The search for Sam had begun, and Alex had a terrifying feeling that they wouldn't like what they found. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to Sam. Until next time, ever had one of those moments where something feels off, like the world just tilted on its axis for a second? That's what happened to me and my friends during what should have been a totally boring fire drill. It was a Tuesday afternoon, sunny, one of those days you wish you were outside instead of stuck in algebra. Suddenly, the alarm blares. We all groan, but shuffle out into the hallway like we're supposed to. The whole school is a river of students flowing towards the exits. My group, me, Liam, Maya, and Chloe, we were at the back of the line, as usual. We were messing around, not really paying attention, when Liam, who notices everything, stopped dead. He pointed down a side corridor we rarely used. It was just a short hallway that led to some janitor's closets and a dead end. But right there, at the very end, was a door. A heavy, dark wood door with a tarnished brass handle. We'd walked past this hallway 1,000,000 times. I'm not exaggerating, 1,000,000 times. And that door had never, ever been there before. Where did that come from? Chloe whispered, her eyes wide. We all just stared. The flow of students had passed us by, and the hallway was suddenly quiet, except for the distant ringing of the alarm. Curiosity, you know how it is. It's like an itch you have to scratch. We looked at each other, a silent agreement passing between us. We had to see what was inside. We tiptoed down the corridor, the air getting cooler, dustier. Liam reached out and turned the old brass knob. It didn't squeak, which was almost weirder. It just clicked open silently. We hesitated for a second, then slipped inside, pulling the heavy door closed behind us. The fire alarm was gone. Total silence. And the smell. It was like old paper and chalk dust. The smell of a library nobody's visited in 100 years. Our eyes adjusted to the dim light, filtering through grimy windows. We were in a classroom, but it wasn't like any classroom in our school. The desks were ancient, made of dark, carved wood with little inkwells drilled into the corners. They were arranged in perfect, dusty rows. At the front of the room was a huge blackboard, and on it, faded chalk, Writing was still visible. It wasn't math problems or history notes. It was a single sentence, written in perfect, looping cursive. "Where did you go?" A shiva went down my spine. "Okay, this is officially creepy," Maya said, hugging herself. We started to explore, carefully, as if we were in a museum. There were old, leather-bound books on a shelf, their pages yellow and brittle. We found a globe of the world, but the countries were all wrong. It showed empires and territories that hadn't existed for decades. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust, except for one spot. On the teacher's desk, right in the center, was a single, perfect red apple. It looked like it had been placed there just this morning. It wasn't dusty at all. That apple freaked us out more than anything. It was so out of place. It felt intentional, like a trap or a welcome mat. We couldn't decide which. We started feeling like we were being watched. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, expectant. Liam tried one of the student desks, and the hinge shrieked, making us all jump. "Sorry," he whispered, his voice loud in the quiet. Then we heard it. A faint tapping sound. Tap, 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 tap. It was coming from inside the teacher essay desk drawer. We all froze, looking at each other, our hearts pounding. Nobody wanted to be the one to open it, but the tapping continued, persistent, almost pleading. Finally, Chloe, who's the bravest of us all, took a deep breath and slowly pulled the drawer open. Inside, there was nothing. Whost more dust tapping stopped the second. The drawer was open. We were all breathing heavily, our nerves completely shot. "I think we should go," I said, and everyone immediately agreed. This place felt wrong. It felt like we were trespassing in someone's memory. We hurried back to the heavy wooden door, opened it, and stepped back out into the hallway. The fire alarm was still blaring. Students were just starting to trickle back inside from the athletic fields. It was like no time had passed at all. The side corridor looked exactly the same, but when we turned to look at the end, there was just a blank wall. The door was gone. Not boarded up, not painted over. Just gone. Like it had never existed. We stood there in shock for a full minute. We tried to rationalize it. Maybe we got turned around. Maybe it was a different hallway, but we knew. We knew where we were. We looked at each other, and we didn't need to say anything. We all saw the same thing. Nothing. The rest of the day was a blur. We couldn't focus in class. All we could think about was that room. During lunch, we split up. We asked our other friends. We asked people we barely knew. We even cautiously asked a teacher, Mr. Harrison, who'd been at the school for 30 years. "Hey, Mr. H." Liam started casually. "That short hallway by the west entrance. Is there a classroom down there?" Mr. Harrison just looked at him, confused. "What classroom?" "That's just a dead end with some storage closets. Been that way since the school was built." "Why do you ask?" We mumbled something about being curious and quickly walked away. Nobody knew what we were talking about. They looked at us like we were crazy. An old wooden door. No, there's just a wall there. A vintage classroom. "Dude, are you writing a story or something?" The more people we asked, the more it felt like we had imagined the whole thing. A shared hallucination, maybe, but it was too real. I could still smell the chalk dust, see that shiny red apple. The four of us are the only ones who know, the only ones who remember. Sometimes we walk past that hallway, and we all slow down, just for a second. We look at the blank wall where the door used to be, and every time I half expect to see it there again. I'm not sure if I'd be scared or relieved. And that question on the blackboard, "Where did you go?" I can't get it out of my head. It feels like it wasn't meant for someone in the past. It feels like it was meant for us. What did we stumble into? And will we ever find it again? If you've ever experienced something you can't explain, something impossible, let me know in the comments. It helps to know we're not alone. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more strange stories. Stay curious. Stay curious.